like to welcome our speaker, Vasanth Kumar. So, Vasanth Kumar is a strategy consultant with senior management experience. His academic achievements include MBA, MCOM, B.Ed, and PGDIL in administration and labor laws. He has an experience of 30 years plus cross functional senior management gained within various entities in the Middle East region and India, with special emphasis on change management, talent infusion, organizational reconstruction, performance management, etc. He has undergone various management training at ASCI Hyderabad, Tata Institute of Management Pune, HLRI Jamshedpur, Digital Equipment Corporation, Boston, USA. Dear speaker, we will be hearing a short buzzer prior to 5 minutes of the session ending time and a long buzzer exactly at the end of the session time. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for a brief introduction. I am Kumar. I've been asked to give a short presentation or a short talk on change management as well as on work culture. Now, what I need to tell this audience, I think most of them are what I learn are the student community or the learning community who wants to understand the change in terms of their professional involvement when they get deployed into some jobs. So I would be speaking in terms of that. As you all know, change is essential, and it is always change that makes it constant in life wherever we are. When we say change, there can be different types of changes: one's personal life, emotional life, in terms of individuals' career, in terms of individuals' family setup, and so on. So change is more micro as well as macro. So what we need to understand is how we interpolate change in terms of micro and template into macro scenarios in an organization. So I will talk about first when an employee enters into an organization, how he or she gets interfaced with the changed work environment from a certain setup. What happens is there may be some values and cultures with which the individual must have come in. And when he or she enters into the work culture, she finds a different set of values, set of people, and there is always a threat of uncertainty, a threat of emotional security that pervades the individual. So we have to rightfully cope with that. How do we cope with that? My point is, we don't have to be doing thesis after thesis to do any change. You have to be just what you are. You be very natural, very genuine, and be what you are wherever you enter. But it is important that you always try to work with a team. That's very important, because in today's world, we are not looking for super doers. We are talking of people who can make the team work and work along with the team. We don't need toxic people. We don't need passengers. Either passengers or toxic people, both of them, even if they are the stars of stars, the top performers, they may not survive in the team. Therefore, whenever you enter into any work situation, it is important that we change ourselves into the adapting environment that you are faced with. Now, when that happens, slowly the emergence of the leadership starts coming in some people, in some forms. It may be leadership styles of different styles, which may be a bit of authoritative, which may be a benevolent autocrat, or it could be totally democratic, or it could be very hierarchical and kind of very knowledge driven. So it depends upon what industry you are. For example, if you are in a knowledge industry like IT, there is no point you trying to build your leadership and change the organization through any other mode other than the knowledge mode, because knowledge workers do not accept any other approach where they get involved. For them, the mental integration to value systems is related to their emancipation of knowledge. So if that happens, then they buy into the total change. Whereas if you get to change an organization which is into manufacturing or which is into basic process industries, there the style and the people expectations are different. A large set of people will be highly automated in terms of their thought process, and they may be looking at for a leader who should guide them, process them into a certain way of working. So that style will work. So it is all depending upon how you want to change the organization and where you remain in changing. Because any change, first you have to change and then you try to change the group. When you try to change the group, there will always be a resistance, because there is always a sense of insecurity for change. This is the reason we are saying that change management is a very, very sensitive subject in any organization, be it be an educational organization, an economic enterprise, or even a family, whatever it may be. If you attempt to take, for example, if a husband and wife, if you have been doing in a certain way and you want to get changing the other party, I think there is a methodology or there is a tactics in which it has got to be done. I mean, there can be different sciences to it, but there is an art involved in it as well, depending upon the situation. So change is essential and it has to be done. So what is very important is that while in change, it is important that we engage very strongly with the change community. That engagement has to be very, very psychological and emotional, because we as a personality, we have physical, mental, social, and emotional facets. It is not enough if you engage with only the physical part of it. It is not enough if it is you do it only with the emotional part of it. It has to be an ambience of emotional interface combined and complemented with physical passion and the relevance and ambience of that social fabric. All this has to be interwoven in an optimum manner and then try to be applied so that the desired change happens. Again, when you do the change, it is important that you try to do the change. There are few changes which have to happen swiftly. So such changes, if you try to do it in a very short and slow pace, the change itself will make the change unknown. Therefore, it has no value. For example, our country, it's a monolith of a lot of people, 120 crore, and we are trying to change certain systems and processes. It takes a lot of time. By the time the changes happen, again, the situations change. Therefore, the end result, we are either in a disturbance mode or we are not able to get into the end objective for which the change has been assigned. So when we do the change, you have to categorize them, which are sudden changes, which are gradual changes. Certain changes which have to happen immediate by diagnosis has to happen immediate, be it be within the team or with the organization or with the individual. For example, you find a leader or a senior manager in an organization, he is very toxic in the system. Now, if he's very toxic in the system, there is no way that we are going to counsel him and try to make him understand that this is not the way to lead the organization. Maybe you can do it for a couple of times, but we cannot buy time, because that toxicity can spread across the whole organization, and the devastating results that can come into the organization can be immeasurable. Therefore, we have got to be swift. There is no compromise there. Whereas if you want to create the whole organization to move into a certain way where the productivity and ownership both go hand in hand without depressing the spirits of the workmen or spirits of the employees, we have to do it gradually. I don't think you can overnight get to a task situation where you are a taskmaster and get things done and ignoring the employee emotions. You cannot also have a work culture where people come into the park and walk away as if they are coming into the park. I mean, there has to be a mid matrix between work and performance and emotional relations. So we have to get to that mid matrix where things have to be done. So in short, what I'm trying to say is that it's a very complex exercise when you do change. And there are number of articles, number of videos, number of exercises that have been taking place for change. But into my experience, I have driven a couple of changes in the organization. What happens is change is initially resisted by most of the people. You have to get over it. You have to intervene with some systems. It may be through an ERP, that is a system intervention where certain organizational structures are changed, certain hierarchies are changed, certain value systems are changed, and then try to make the change. But in whatever form, it is the art and science that makes you successful. It is not only science, it is also an art. I mean, there may be number of theories that percolate on the changes of an organization or of an individual or of a leadership team, but the art of getting it done in the right way is what it is. Very important. So what I'm telling you to all of you is that we don't have to copy or cut and paste what has happened in one organization to another organization. It may not work. The same way, we don't have to think global when things are regional. So we have to act regional with global thoughts, and we have to act global where it is required to be global. I mean, I don't think we have to juxtapose things and try to elucidate any results. It may not happen. Another aspect is that it has to be very genuine. Whatever we are trying to do, it has to be genuine. That genuinity or the independent thought has to happen very clearly. Otherwise, what will happen is people will see through your lack of purpose, lack of sincerity, and it will not be followed through. Another important aspect is that the change has to be a top-down push. I don't think you can start making changes from the bottom. There has to be a definite need for it to be felt at the top. I mean, even if it's a family, I mean, if the father doesn't show by example what needs to be done, I don't think he has any right or responsibility to tell his ward how they have to do it. So it's an action by example. Similarly, when there is a change to happen in an organization, it has to happen from the top. So it is important that we do a top-down push. Again, change will bring turbulence. When you bring turbulence, it's like a plane. When you get into turbulence, please don't think that we are going to crash. We will not crash. Even if you get into air pockets, there is a way of navigating and getting out of it and getting into the normal course of the journey. Similarly, in an organization, when you try to change, you might get into some air bubbles and air pockets, but there is a way of getting out of it. Sometimes it is the hard way, sometimes is the soft way. But again, it depends upon the art of doing it. Some areas we may have to do, because we'll find some people who are the speed breakers in change. When we try to change something in some places, you will find some speed breakers. They may be people, they may be processes, they may be projects, they may be programs, any of that. But you have to identify and try to get rid of them in a nice way, or to remove from the path of progress. So these are some of the thoughts that I wanted to mention and share with you as a practice person in terms of change. When it comes to the work culture, I have to say that work culture is also very simple. Culture is a set of values that human beings or the set of people develop over a period of time. Now that value system is depend upon the again on the top management. When top management has certain values, they believe in that. For example, in some organizations, turnover is essential. That's what the top leadership feels. I mean, turnover is always allowing them to bring fresh blood. That's one thought. There are some organizations where they believe that they do not believe in employee turnover. They want a culture where people are retained. So anything which is long term is what is perceived by that leadership. Both are good and bad, but I think you have to build an optimization in between both the models. For example, yesterday I was sitting with one of my nephews. I mean, he runs a large enterprise in Dubai. So I asked him, what is it that you do as a leadership model? I mean, he's the chairman of the company. So he was telling, Uncle, I try to do something of this kind, you know. He doesn't get into nitty gritties because he's the chairman of the group and he has got his executive board and he has got his group CEOs and so on. But he meets all of them only once for their P&L reviews. P&L means profit loss business management reviews. But one thing he does is that he tries to put the pulse of the people at his fingers. And for that, he says he has a meet or a coffee with chairman or coffee with Sanjay. That's one session that he has every month. He shortlists whomsoever wants to approach him, maybe 3 or 4 employees, and make them talk what they feel like talking and try to get the pulse and getting that pulse. And from that, he gets into a style of building some organizational templates and intervention techniques through which he tries to make things happen. Without rubbing the shoulders of the CEOs or the executive board, he does it. And it is very subtly being built into the system. I felt it was a very nice way of doing it. So similarly, you can think of building some work culture in an organization, which is very important and which will sustain and attract the talent and stars. Because there is no point in having passengers being retained in any group. I mean, what happens is in any mechanism, the passengers will get retained and the stars will elope. So we have to reverse that mechanism. And in reversing that mechanism, we have to make sure that we put our pulse rightfully on the right people on right emotions and get that mood in the organization. Another thing is some people work in freedom. For example, I was in Toronto for last 1 year, and before that I was in US. I could see different value systems in both the countries. For example, in US, you feel very different. I mean, they are very formal in terms of their communication styles, and they feel that we have to tell them what exactly they need, and they will help you. When it comes to numerical, for when example, when you go into any organization, you have to be very clear with what you want, and you can seek help, and they will tell you. In Canada, it's a bit different. Though it's all the Western world, there the value systems have been a bit more different because there is a concoction of different nationalities, much more than what you see in US. So you don't feel that intimidated value in that Canada work environment. You feel a little more easier. You can work on a flexi mode. You can be a little more easier. But in US, it's perform or perish is the pattern. So you have to find out what's the work culture that you are in and where you want to remain. After all, it is performance by results, performance which shall sustain, performance which shall be perceived. These three are important. There are some people who perform all the time, but it's not being perceived by few people who are the measures for which they determine the targets. In such cases, it's important that you also do branding in the work culture at senior levels to make perceive what is being performed. If these things are taken care, then I think you are able to build a good work culture. There are basic things like hard work, punctuality, responsiveness, cooperative endeavor, clear communications. These are all known to everybody. We have to do that all the time. Plus, there is the tactics or that interwoven untold myth of relationship that you have to maintain in a very diabolic nature. That will make you the successful in the whole organizational template. And this is what I wanted to share with you in very brief. Hope I have given you. So engage, motivate, inspire, change, empower, work for purpose, purpose for passion, communicate, practice, and project. These are the words that I would always remember when you are talking of change and work culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. I hope everyone are well informed about this. I would like our technical team to give you your e-certificates, sir. Technical team. Sir, the certificate is for you and it will be mailed to you as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Join the vision, build India. Join the mission, build India to serve the world.
Join the mission and build India to serve the world.
Join the mission, build India to serve the world.
Join the mission, build India to serve the world.